Joining me right now, Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. He served in both the Obama and Bush administrations. Good morning to you, Joel. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Adrienne. Thanks.
We're going to talk a little bit about Madeleine Albright's passing in just a moment, her life and legacy. But first, in terms of this emergency NATO summit, what's at stake for President Biden?
Well, this is a crucial moment for President Biden's diplomacy towards Europe and in defeating Russia on Ukraine, because a month in now, we're seeing the outcome in the war on the battlefield that was predicted somewhat by the intelligence community, but nobody was really certain what it would look like. And so now it's clear that this is going to be a long slog. It's clear that Russia is in a quagmire, and it's clear that Ukraine is going to need additional support as well as their European allies. So this is really strengthening that resolve. The president is showing leadership and is showing to the allies that we're in it for the long haul.
And there is a lot, obviously, contextually, that would say that NATO, all of the NATO members, are following America's lead. But what are our objectives? What are the U.S. objectives compared to other NATO members?
Yeah, first and foremost, our primary objective is to get Russia out of Ukraine. That is the core goal here, to restore Ukrainian sovereignty and to ensure that Russia understands it cannot and will not be able to take further types of military actions against other countries. So that's the core goal. The secondary goal, though, and this is undergirding all of this, is really maintaining unity alliance and reminding the world and the American people about how important it is to have allies right now as the world is full of significant risks and dangers, looking over the horizon at China and potentially what they could be doing in their region as well. So those are really the two big objectives here. And I think that we've seen the groundwork laid for that. But again, that does mean a very significant longer term commitment to maintaining this support.
There has been some rhetoric around the term war criminal and war crimes. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken actually mentioning on Wednesday that the Biden administration has found evidence to accuse Russian troops of war crimes. But is that the same as calling President Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I think they're all war criminals. I think that what President Biden said and what Secretary Blinken said are not at all incongruous. We see a leader of Russia that is unleashing his troops to indiscriminately bomb civilian targets on a repetitive basis, meaning that is doctrine, that is the policy of the Russian government led by Vladimir Putin. And then we, of course, see the people actually doing it, the soldiers. There's video evidence galore. Everyone can see it. Ourselves, we can see it, as well as clearly investigators can. So it's sadly a whole of Russian government war criminal activity right now inside of Ukraine.
And that conversation, just in terms of whether Russia can face consequences for their war crimes or Putin individually, is a separate topic. But before we run out of time, Madeleine Albright, the first female Secretary of State, really, she is one of a kind in terms of the impact that she's made for America and for the world. What would you say about her legacy?
I mean, there's all the policy and discussions that people are going to have, but really on the personal, her legacy is the past 3+ decades of really creating a dynamic, certainly in national security and really amongst Democrats who practice foreign policy. She was involved in every single Democratic organization dedicated to promoting American values abroad, national security, alliance building, and really mentoring young people throughout. This entire administration is populated with people who were mentored by her, met people who've been involved in organizations, including myself, where she's been a leader. So her footprint, her mark is across Washington and the national security community, and it will be felt for decades to come.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.